So if you take the movie Castaway and set it on Mars, you get The Martian. The Martian was directed by Ridley Scott, as the story centres around a manned mission to Mars, in which astronaut Mark Watney, played by Matt Damon, is presumed dead after a fierce storm, as he's left behind by his crew. Despite this storm, Mark has somehow survived. With only meagre supplies available to Mark, he must use his ingenuity and spirit to find a way to signal to Earth that he's alive. So just to give you guys a heads up, there'll be no spoilers in this review, so I'll keep plot details and character info to an absolute minimum. So before I go into the positives of this movie, I'm going to be honest with you folks, I had low expectations going into this movie. Mainly because I was worried of seeing a potential bore fest of seeing an astronaut stranded on Mars. The movie, however, more than exceeded my expectations, and then some more. Whenever a movie is structured around one protagonist for the bulk of its runtime, if the actor's performance doesn't land, then the movie falls apart. Luckily, the casting of Matt Damon as Mark Watney is on point, as he brings a warm, charming presence to Mark's character. In a story where the protagonist's situation is dire to say the least, Damon is able to infuse Mark with a sense of levity, which makes him very likeable. Damon's also great at conveying the conflicts that Mark experiences in his attempts to return to Earth. These scenes show how convincing Damon is in portraying Mark's intellect in trying to solve the problems he faces. At the same time, he's able to convey the physical and emotional turmoil of Mark with such conviction. The rest of the cast are serviceable in their roles, as the often comedic tone of the movie allows the actors to flex their comedic chops in several scenes. In the hands of a bad director with an average script, The Martian could have easily descended into a boring movie, especially if the movie had a lack of structure and conflict in the story. Fortunately, the story has both of these qualities in spades. The movie follows a very simple plot of Mark being stranded on Mars after a severe storm, before he attempts to return to Earth with the limited tools at his disposal. This simple plot structure allows for the acting and direction to be front and centre of the movie, as it ultimately means that I was able to care for Mark's situation on Mars. The conflicts that are presented to Mark throughout the story is one of the reasons why The Martian works so well. The first conflict being the physical and mental demands of Mark being alone on Mars without any human contact, and the second being how is he going to get back to Earth in one piece. The second conflict is important in showing the obstacles presented to Mark throughout the story, such as when his crops and potatoes are destroyed in an explosion, which forces Mark to use his intellect to overcome these problems. It means that Mark is never a static character, which in my opinion makes Mark a fully fleshed out, three-dimensional character. Despite its bulky runtime of just over 2 hours and 20 minutes, Ridley Scott always makes the movie engaging and entertaining, especially the latter, which came as a bit of a surprise to me. While most directors would have been compelled to use Mark's situation on Mars to mine into the dramatic aspects of his character, Scott, along with a witty script from Drew Goddard, uses plight as a way to draw humour out of the experience. A great example of this is the scene where Mark finds Commander Lewis's collection of 1970s disco music, much to his dismay. Ridley Scott directs these scenes with the same passion and intensity as he does with the dramatic scenes that focus on Mark's attempts to get back home. Importantly though, Scott balances the comedic and dramatic tones of the movie, as they complement and support each other. Scott, along with cinematographer Darius Wolski, deploy multiple wide shots of Mark on Mars throughout the movie. These wide shots really sell the loneliness that Mark is feeling on Mars, along with selling us the vast landscape of the planet. The only two issues that I had with the movie were some of the scenes set on Earth and some pacing issues in the final act. While the Earth scenes were written and directed fairly well, there were moments where characters would explain the science behind Mark's proposed return journey to Earth on more than one occasion. These scenes felt like they were hammering home the point of the theories and concepts involved in Mark's return trip, as it took some of the momentum away from the Mars segments in the movie. The final act of the movie, while often tense and exhilarating, suffers a few pacing issues. Again, this goes back to the moments when the movie cuts back to the characters on Earth. If the final act focused purely on Mark's return mission, as opposed to often cutting back to the crew on Earth, then the tension that the act already had would have worked that much better. So just to give you my overall thoughts on The Martian, Matt Damon delivers a fantastic performance as Mark Watney, as he's always a charming presence, as well as bringing some levity to Mark that makes him very likeable to say the least. The simple plot structure allows the acting and direction to be front and centre of the movie. It meant that I was fully invested with Mark's predicament on Mars. Ridley Scott directs the movie in a very engaging and entertaining manner. Combined with a witty script from Drew Goddard, Scott and Goddard use Mark's plight on Mars as a way to draw some great humour out of his situation. The 1970s disco soundtrack was a delight to hear, as it's great at furthering the comedic element of the movie. The score from Harry Gregson Williams is a solid effort from the composer, as he was able to convey the underlying emotions of Mark's character arc. I had two issues with the movie. The first is how there were several moments in the latter half of the movie where characters explained the science behind Mark's proposed return trip to Earth, which to me felt redundant, considering the sort of exposition was covered more efficiently in the earlier portions of the movie. The second issue is how the final act, while often tense and exhilarating, suffers a few pacing problems. If this act focused solely on Mark's efforts to get back home, as opposed to often cutting back to the crew on Earth, then the tension that this finale already had would have worked that much better. So overall, I'm going to give The Martian an 8 out of 10. So, and I hand it over to you guys. I'm interested to hear your thoughts in terms of whether or not you enjoyed The Martian, And where do you think this ranks in Ridley Scott's filmography? So interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and be sure to hit the notification bell for updates on the latest videos. I hope you enjoyed this movie review, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.